Okay, thank you for clicking on this video. This is what we're going to be working on today. We have our simple navigation bar. We're going to be using HTML and CSS only, and then we have the logo, the links with hover effects, the login button with a nice transition and the color in the background. So yeah, let's do this thing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And for my French speaking people, bonjour ou bonsoir. How are you today? I'm feeling great. If you don't know who I am, my name is Hacks. I own this YouTube channel, and here we cover a lot of good stuff. So, yeah, for now, we're working on web development. I've spoken about HTML and CSS, which is the basics of web development because you need HTML and CSS. All right. So now we're gonna be taking bit by bit projects. So for today, we have a simple navigation bar here. So as you saw from the intro, this is what we're gonna be doing from scratch. The nice thing you see. Okay. So now let's get right into it. We're gonna start our live server. I already linked our CSS. Um, we already have the doc type ready. So yeah, let's start coding. Okay. So we see here from our finished product that we have a navigation bar. This whole black box, I can say, or rectangle, is the navigation bar. So we're gonna make a class called navbar. That is short for navigation bar. Then in the navigation bar, usually we have logos and links, right? But I did not use a logo today. I used my name, and that's it. So yeah, let's run it. We have our logo, and then we have the name. It was hacks. All right, so I'm gonna open our server we opened. Yeah. So the next thing we have will be the links, just like here in the including the button. So we're gonna make a links tag, a class, I mean, and then we're gonna have anchor tags in them. So it does not go anywhere. So we use a hashtag, and then we have home. All right, so we have that there. All right, let me shift this a little bit. We have that. We have that there. All right. Then we copy and paste because we don't want to stress ourselves out. And wait, I'm trying to make this video short. All right. So then we have home about. Whoops. Would be about services and log in. But notice it's the anchor tag is not a button. So we have to use a button element. So we put button, then copy it and paste the login, boom. Yeah, and there we have it. So yeah, so that's the login button. So we have the navigation. Okay, so we have this. We have the logo and the links. So we move on to the main content. You jump out of the nav bar. You can see the highlights. That's the end of the nav bar. So then we make a new class, maybe called main content. It could be anything you want. You can name it anything you want. Oops. Content. All right. So we have an H1 because it's a header, and then we call it simple navigation bar. All right. Nice, nice, looking clean. Now we're done with the HTML. Now we move to the CSS. So here's the bread and butter of the whole thing, the whole situation. All right, so we're gonna start with the body tag, which is a group selector. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you have to go back to my CSS video. It's in 3 parts. You can Watch them. Yeah, so we're gonna give it a margin of 0 and then a padding of 0, so it does not have any extra space. So by default, it gives you um, a, a small amount of margin and padding. So if you give it a 0, it's gonna hinge hinge the top. I don't know if you noticed. And then now we're gonna give our HTML and our body some properties. And what this will do is, let me finish, max width 100%, and then maybe an overflow X, I believe, yeah. Overflow X of none. No, actually hidden. Whoops. Right. What this does is it prevents the HTML, the whole HTML document from scrolling to the right. So it does not scroll horizontally. All right, let's move on quickly. We have our nav bar. So in the nav bar, we're using the grid layout. So we're gonna call it display grid. All right, you see a little effect, but it's nothing really without the rest. So we have a min height, which means minimum height for the nav bar alone, maybe 100 pixels. Yeah, yeah, how everything stretches out nicely. Okay, let's do it. The next thing we have is the grid auto flow. Grid auto flow. It should be a column so that they both split. So yeah, we're not done yet. So now we're gonna give it a background color of black. And yeah, it looks nice. But the problem is now we can't see our logo because it's black also. So quickly we're gonna give that will be in the logo property. So don't worry about it for now. You can still see it though. See, it's right there. All right. Do not worry. So now we got to give it padding properties. So I explain what paddings and margins are. So a padding is the space inside of the box and the margin is outside of the box. So that's all you need to keep in mind. But before that, we're going to add a border radius so we can have this nice round box. So maybe we can give it a nice 30 pixels, maybe. All right. Ooh, okay. Looking nice. Looking nice. Okay, you can now see the logo a little bit. All right. Yep. Well, now to the padding. We're gonna work on padding. So I explained that the padding, you can write them like this, like add the properties like left, top, right, bottom, or for cleaner CSS. For example, if I use 10 pixels, it gives you all around. If I add another one, it's gonna be, maybe give 50 so we can see effect. All right. Okay, so it's inside. You can see that the hacks and everything shifted in, caved in on itself. So the top and bottom, left and right, and if you add more properties, it's like top and bottom. When you add the third property, maybe 10 pixels, it's gonna be top. It's gonna be left and right, and then top and bottom. Right. All right. So when you add the last one, it's like clockwise. So top, right, bottom, and left. So yeah, that's that. But here we're gonna be using left and right only. So how we can do this is by simply making 0 pixels and then 40 pixels. So it just does that, nothing at the top. Don't worry about the everything here. We're gonna use a property to bring it down. All right. Okay, so for good measure, we're gonna make it 10 pixels. Yeah, so it looks fire. Okay. What else did we see? So for the nav bar, you can see that it matches the original. So we're done with that. So now we move on to the logo. All right. So for the logo, we're also going to give it a display grid, right? So it matches the nav bar. It can give it some properties. So then we have font size first, because we need the font size of the hacks to be maybe, so let's give it 20 pixels to see. Okay, 20 pixels is not bad, but let's make it 30. All right, oh, looks nice. Okay, so there's that. So now we have to give it a color of white. See how it's working nicely. So now we're gonna give it an align content of center. All right, looks nice, nice, nice. Okay, so that's centered. What else can we do? What else can we do? Okay, we have to change the font family because the font family I use here is called fantasy. Font family fantasy. All right, looks nice, but the color is not the same. So what I used here, I called it, whoops, I have to change the color from white to Rebecca purple, because that's what I used. Don't ask me how I know about the name. Okay, so I think we're done with our logo. Okay, so then we move on to the other part, which is the links. We give it a display of grid. All right, see, it makes it horizontal because it's in a grid format, but we can change that. So we give it a display grid. Okay, so this is on a big level. So let's just style it on a big level. So we're gonna give it an aligned content of center. Okay, so we can see here an aligned content of center. So it stretches down like this. All right. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is we want to spread this around, right? So you remember this property, grid auto flow column, right? We're gonna copy that and then repost it. Boom. And it spreads out nicely. All right. That's cool and whatnot. So we gotta change, we have to remove the the underline and the color and all that. All right, so you change the color. We have to remove the text underline and the color should change, right? Because here it's white. It's white. Okay, we can do all that. Um, how do we do this? So we call links and then we call the A tag because um, CSS works in levels. So we have the links, which means the whole bucket, oops, the whole bucket, the whole container of it. So we are able to switch their position because they're all different buckets, right? They're all different buckets. Think of it as that. They're all different buckets. So that's why when we space them in columns, they all separate. That's what happened with this with the hacks and the both of them. All right. So that was just by the way. And then now we give it a text decoration of none. All right, the underline is gone. Then we give it a color of white. Nice, nice. Now we have to call our font family, which was fancy. Nice, nice. I think we're done with half of it, half of that. Okay. So the next thing will be to cover the hover function of the pseudo class. If you want me to cover that, please let me know in the comment section. So this is a pseudo class. So we have a hover, and then we give it a color property of Rebecca purple. All right, see, looks nice, looks nice, looks nice. We're almost done here, but we see here that the links, I mean the button is not affected by the links tag. This is because the button is part of the links. It takes all the properties from the links, but it does not take the A tag because it has a button that overrides the A tag, right? So how we have to fix this is simply by using a button. First, we have to style the button. So now we have to give it some padding from inside. So padding, maybe we want like 5 pixels top and bottom, and maybe 20 pixels left and right. So it's, yeah, spreads out evenly. Spreads out evenly. Okay. What else do we want? We want the border to be none, because if you pay attention closely to some detail here, and then now when it's gone, boom, see, the border is gone. Okay, so we're gonna set a width for it, a width of 100 pixels, so that when we're working with the transition, we can change the width again. That's what makes the transition happen. Okay. So what else? The next thing will be a border radius, because we see it's not flat here, it's round. So maybe a border radius of 20 pixels, I think will be fine. 20 pixels, yeah, okay, looking good. Looking fresh. Okay. Then what else do we need to do? Okay, so I think we need to change the font family and the font size. So font family is fantasy. See, it changes nicely. And then what else? What else? The font size. Font size. I think we used. Okay, we did not give it a font size, but we're gonna give it one here. Maybe 20 pixels. Oops, too big. 10 pixels. Oops, not too small. So let's give it a 15. That'll be in between. Yep, that's nice. But we see here that our button is a bit lower than the rest of them. So how we do this is by using a property called line height. The line height will redefine the line of the height. So maybe let's give it a, whoops, let's give it a 10 pixels just to see how it works. Okay. Okay, so we see that it's adjusted a little bit. If you don't think you saw anything, let me just revert it back. Okay, so now look closely. Boom. See, it's like a bit higher than the rest. So when I bring it back, look closely. See, nice. Okay. Oops, I copied the fantasy. Oops. Okay. So we're not quite done yet. We need to add the transition like I said earlier. So first of all, we're gonna give it a transition property, right? But before that, you see that it changes colors and whatnot. So we have to give it the button a color first before we can have any effect. Sorry, color. It was Rebecca purple. All right. Whoops. What's the background color? All right. So you see, it works nicely. But in its normal stages, the color is supposed to be white. So we're gonna fix it from black to white. Boom, fixed. Okay. Um, okay. But now the problem is um, the login. The line height is giving us issues with the size of the button. So we're gonna take that out for now. How we can fix this is by pushing these down rather. We're gonna push these down. So these were at the, yeah, so line height. Okay, 100 pixels. Yeah, so that works straightforward. So yeah, what do we do next? So we're done with this, but we have to add transition, right? So transition, first of all, before that, we're gonna give it a transition property, right? transition property of background first, because it has a background that wants to change, background and the width and the height, because that's what makes it like, give the impression that it's growing. So we give it a transition, oops, give it a transition property of, then we give it a time, 2 seconds. See how it comes in nicely? Boom, okay. Now we give it a button hover. Oops, hover, hover, okay, button hover. Then we give those properties that we called here, but without the background though. So we just call it color black first, that's for the text inside the button. And then we give it a background color, oops, background color of, I gave it a linear gradient. So, um, yeah, so I gotta rewrite that. Linear gradient, that's for making like gradient, animated gradients and whatnot. In this case, we're going to use it for a transition. So minus 45 degrees as deg, whoops, deg, comma. Okay, so I'm going to go off screen for a bit to paste my codes. So we got our code now, we run it. Boom, nice. Okay, so it changes colors, right? But we have to add the width of, it was 100, so make it 120 pixels. So when we shrink, the browser, it does not give any weird effects. And then the height should be, let's use 50 pixels. Let's use that. All right, so when we hover over it, boom, looking nice. Whoops. All right. Wow, that was easy. Okay. Services, yeah. Let's get it. Okay. What else? What else? What else? I think we're done with that. So now we're moving on to the simple nav bar. So that's quite easy. So the next thing we do now is the main content, which is easy. It's text. So text align center and then outline style dashed. Boom. But you see, it's all weird. It's not clean like this one. So we have to give the whole thing a margin, sorry, a margin of maybe 20 pixels just for, whoops, oh, that's not pixels. Okay, yeah, so there we go. So we're done here. That's all you needed to know. If you enjoy the content, subscribe, drop a like, comment what you will want me to cover. And yeah, thank you for staying tuned. I appreciate it. And have a great day. Bye.